an awful lot of gain you're playing with. You don't usually do that. What's up with all the gain?
I don't use that much gain, do I? Almost ever. Never. But how am I getting it? Because look how low my Gainmasters are set. I might have to move my chair in a little bit for that. So what's the deal?
What's the deal with all the gain?
How do you get that? How do you make that much gain out of that? And why? Because I don't even like it. I don't even play with a lot of gain.
I see 2 lit up tubes.
Yeah, well, they're both on.
Oh.
It's the 2 Gainmaster story.
Is that what this is about now?
If you
The
want,
2
if you want it to
Gainmasters?
be. Because normally I set, I don't use 2 Gainmasters, I use 1. So let's say the one that's on that little board.
The one on your little tiny pedal board?
Yeah, see it's set very low gain. So by itself, you gotta excuse this noisy volume control on this guitar. I got with that volume all the way up.
And that's with the low volume on the Gainmaster?
Yeah, that's with just one Gainmaster, because that's really all I like. And then normally I would just kick some fuzz in front of that if I wanted, you know, a lot more. Give me my gain there, but with fuzz, right? So why am I even doing this video? Because there are a lot of guys out there lucky enough to own 2 10Ns, right? And which means they have
therefore 2 Gainmasters.
They have 2 Gainmasters, and I have endless enjoyment listening to how they all use their 2 Gainmasters, right? And there's a various bunch of different ways to do it. My way of doing it is to take my second Gainmaster and put it safely away on a shelf, because I don't really use a lot of tube gain for the most part.
Or need to do 2 pedal boards.
And well, that's another story. So that's like what some guys do, and then other guys have 2 pedal boards, like you said. So they'll have 1 Gainmaster on one pedal board, 1 Gainmaster on another, depending on what kind of gig it is. They have those kind of pedals on each board, so that's their use for 2. There's other guys that insist on running their 2 amps, their 2 10Ns, with a Gainmaster on each one, because it's obviously going to be even fatter, because you've got stereo Gainmasters and stereo amps. Stereo is a complicated thing, depends on why you're using stereo. Me, I always play 2 amps because I can't stand my effects on both amps, like delays. Like for instance, I've got only delay on, and it's only on 1 amp, okay? So now if I put a little reverb with that, right? On this amp, it's not on this one. Now, if I were to switch here, takes them completely out of the circuit. So this is what we got with just the 2 amps dry. Okay, so depending on how you use stereo, there's all different reasons why people want to be in stereo. So the 2 Gainmasters, 1 on each amp, yeah, that's fine. But suppose you want to instantly go to whatever your effects you have for clean, right? So. Gainmasters off, right? To get to the clean sound, if I had 2 Gainmasters, 1 on each amp, I'd have to go off, right? Unless I had a fancy switching system that shuts them both off or turns them both on, which I don't, because I don't like pedal boards and I don't like all this switches and all this shit going through all this stuff. So for me, it would be, I would never do that. I would never have a Gainmaster on each one of these 2 amps, right? So,
those are the 2 you're playing on?
Yeah.
Not playing on the...
No, I'm playing on these 2 right now. But, so I would never have that because I don't want a fancy switching system, and really to get from clean to dirty with 1 Gainmaster, you know, all I have to do is step on 1 switch, right? So I'd step on that 1 switch and instantly, right? So, but
plus it's hard to keep track of which one's on.
Well, yeah, but so some guys do that, but there's a crazy amount of these guys that own 2 Gainmasters that tell me all the time about how they put one in front of the other, and they're like, "Man, you don't know what you're missing. I'm the guy that designed it. I don't know what I'm missing, right?" So, and I know what it's. I was doing it at the beginning of the video, and.
Well, there's not that many people that have 2 of them.
Some guys have 3 of them. But the coolest thing about it is, if you do that, right, I'm not a guy that likes a lot of gain, right? So, you know, if I had 1 on, it'd be... And if I kick that other one on now...
Sound.
Yeah, it's kind of cool if you like a lot of gain. I like fuzz in front of the small amount of gain, you know, myself. I've already explained that. But it's all on what you like. But here's the other cool part about using the 2 Gainmasters. I have this is one of the earliest ones right here. So disregard, if you own a Gainmaster, what you're seeing when you see this control right here, because that control is actually set exactly like that one. It's just that there's a different pot in the older one. So everything, what this does right here, this one does right here.
So this, that's a primordial Gainmaster?
Yeah, so the newer Gainmasters have a lot of range to get to unity gain. Where the old Gainmaster, it starts here and gets to unity right here. It's too fast. But so disregard that. But other than that, what I have in this Gainmaster is a totally different tube than I have in this Gainmaster. Okay? I have so I can have 2 different sounds too. You know, it's another reason why
people... So that's another reason to have 2 Gainmasters, is because you can put a different... So what kind of tubes have you got in there?
So watch, here's this one. I'm going to shut that reverb off because I can't stand reverb. Turn this one on, okay? Gotta excuse this volume control, I need to change it. less open sound because
Is that because of the tube?
yeah, because that tube acts like that. So
What are the tubes? Or
And
do
the
you know what
Gainmaster
it is?
is so determined on the tube you put in it. Whereas back to this one, okay, this one off, and this one's going to be much clearer and much more open, and this one. Now each one of these Gainmasters is
I
gonna,
could actually hear the difference.
oh yeah, of course.
I don't know if you're going to hear it on the video or not. The video.
I know but I mean,
That one
you
next
could-
to the speaker there
you
does
can get
have a
so
more.
many. You could run your tube collection through a Gainmaster, and every one of them sounds different. And so you can pick two of your favorite sounds, or and I got the gain up higher, a little higher on this one. If I set this gain equal with this one, this tube has a lot less gain than this tube, but that's why I can open it up a little bit and get it a little fatter. And then each one's going to react completely different to what you put in front of it. Like, which one am I on right now? Okay, so I'm on this one, right? This one here. I gotta stop turning this control, it's driving me nuts. So what I did was I put the fuzz on in front of this one, okay? Now, I'll put the fuzz on in front of this one and it will react very different. So it sounds different with what you put in front of it. Anyway, enough about the dual Gainmaster thing, because you know everybody
Tutorial.
has their own idea or what to do with it. I would have to say this tube is my favorite one of these two. Take one Gainmaster and make that much gain out of it? Yeah, sure. You just wind that gain control up. Look, we don't have either one of them up at all practically, right? But then the problem with that is, then when you turn the Gainmaster on, you always have that much gain unless you reach down and turn the control down. That's why a lot of guys use the 2 and get their higher gain from the second Gainmaster, so that they don't ever have to change the control. All it is a foot switch, you know. And I put a rubber pad on them.
The ring, the O-ring.
Yeah, O-ring for guys that have one Gainmaster.
And they can use it with
Yeah,
their foot.
because you know, sometimes I'll adjust my gain a little bit by just reaching down with my foot. But I don't really play that a lot of gain like that unless I'm just fooling around here, you know.
You like the controls on the guitar better, huh?
Yeah, I like fuzz more. When I want to knock it over the top, I like it to be something other than the tube sound. I like it to be that twisted germanium sound, taking it further than what the amp does, you know. But to each his own. But anyway, so that's the advantage of 2 Gainmasters instead of just turning one up. Is if you turn one up, then it's high gain now every time you step on it, unless you reach down and turn it down. But if you have 2 of them, and another way you can do it is you can set with 2 of them. A lot of guys do this: is set one with a whole lot of gain, and the other, the way I have pretty much both of these set, with
gain.
mild gain. But then you got to stomp 2 boxes, okay? Because then you got to shut the mild one off and turn the heavy one on when you want it, right? And or go back. Whereas if you're using, follow me, don't make a face, follow me. If you,
I can't follow. I don't play
if
guitar.
you're using
Bob.
2 Gainmasters and they're both set very passive but have a different tone because they have different tubes in them, so you get some variety there, then stepping on, all you have to ever do is turn one on and off to add gain. You don't have to touch the other one to get back to where you were. You just shut that one off that you added the gain with. And then of course to go clean, you go to that other one, and then that one goes on and off, you know. Unless there's a chance where you have to go clean from both of them on instantly, which would be pretty rare, to be roaring away like that and then all of a sudden be clean, you know, super clean. That would be
Sounds so much simpler just
kinda
play an
non-musical.
acoustic guitar.
Yeah, right. Or just,
Like you do all the time.
yeah, I almost never plug in. When you got a really good guitar, you notice all that does is sound like this. When an amp changes this, I throw it in the trash. You know, if an amp makes this sound like some weird crunchy,
Crunch.
you know, that
Crunch.
that thing that's to each his own. But for me,
You like the sound of the guitar.
that howl I can get, I can get that without an amp. If it's a good guitar, right?
No, it makes no difference what kind of guitar. They've proven it, and it makes no
You
difference
can
what
make
kind
it
of
out
wood.
of steel.
You can make it out of a cigar box. You can make it out of a iron pan.
I remember once when I was really young, and I was working in one of the biggest music stores in the city, and I was quickly becoming Mr. Guitar to all the kids in Berkeley and everything, you know. And there was this dude that worked there, and he's probably long gone because he was really old then. He was a great woodworker, right? Really good woodworker, but he dabbled in guitars. And I was building a guitar one day, and he was standing over my shoulder, and I was laboring over which way I was going to cut it for the grain and all that on the neck. And he was like, "That doesn't make any difference." And I love this guy to death, but you know what he knew about guitars and what he thought he knew about guitars were 2 separate things. And he's like, "That makes no difference in the tone what that neck is made out of." And I said, "Bob, how's that? Like, what are you basing that on?" And he goes, "Well, Kramer proved that. Their guitars got aluminum neck. And it sounds like every other guitar." And I'm like, wow, take the fucking plugs out of your ears.
He needs some Q-tips.
But anyway, he was a great guy, and he actually worked. He had some killer jazz guitars too. He was a good guy, and he left that place and went to work selling woodworking supplies at up and coming chain. One of the first places in the country was in Woburn, Mass. It was called Woodcraft.
Right.
And you young kids will be going, oh, Woodcraft, yeah, I know Woodcraft. But Woodcraft was
You
like,
can tell if Bob holds someone in disdain, he uses that dumb voice.
but
But
But Woodcraft was just a small place opening up, and it was great. I mean, I love that, you know, Bob went there because I could go to Bob and, you know,
get the good wood.
Well, they didn't have wood, but they had.
Oh, wood crafting tools.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I could save a lot of time, you know. But everything makes a difference in tone. Truss rod.
Stainless steel frets.
Well, here's a whole nother story, right? Stainless steel frets, right?
There they are.
I'm getting a lot of that on.
Get a lot of comments about that. People that have a bad experience or something, right? They don't like it.
Yeah. Now this is one of my, you know, hand-built guitars. You know.
And it was built originally with stainless steel. It's not a refret.
You can hear those stainless steel frets. Some people will say, "Oh, you can hear them, all right. They sound like shit, right?" But on their guitar, they do.
Is it a refret?
But not on my guitar. Now, how come?
Because you built the guitar?
Well, because I made a video making the pieces that go in the back of the guitar a couple of weeks
That's one
ago.
with your new bridge.
Yeah, it's our last video that's up, I believe, and it's all about. This is one of my. Don't get. Yeah, we can get
You know
close,
what?
but
You can
I
see-
think that thing distorts if you get
It
too
doesn't
close.
really.
It doesn't? Okay.
No.
Well, you know better than me. Anyway, this is my handmade bridge.
You can get even closer if I hold it.
Of course, I don't care about tremolos and all that because I don't use one. If you use one, you're stuck with it. You have to have it, but I don't. So I'm about building the best sounding guitar in the world. And in my opinion, I'll say it again over and over and over again.
Hard.
Stratocaster is the best guitar ever built. He just made a lot of mistakes. The neck is way too small. My neck is huge. It has the right size. He stole this from Martin, this 2 and 7/32. Leo stole that measurement from Martin, and it's the widest string spacing that was ever offered on a guitar. Up till that point, and probably today, unless it's like a 7-string or something like that. Okay, well, anyway, then he takes and puts the skinniest freaking neck on it with a little tiny 1 5/8 nut, and it's so close up here the strings are hanging off the edge. Major mistake. Now, to prove
And
how
you're fixing
great
that.
a Stratocaster is, with that piece of crap neck that a 50 Strat and 70 Strat all had on it, right? It still became the most played, most famous guitar, most chosen guitar, because the rest of it smokes everything else, okay? These pickups, you know, yeah, sure, there's little details on changing them and stuff. This body shape and everything. I've made all kinds of beautiful original guitars. I don't care. I want to make the best guitar. So to me, the best guitar, something familiar, the Fender Stratocaster, but there's a lot of very particulars that I have to have on all the woods and the metals. I'm going to get back into stainless frets on this, right? And fixing all of Leo's mistakes and you know, and this is the guitar right here, okay? This guitar is unbelievable. So now, so I said I make all this out of a special kind of cold rolled steel, right? And I've experimented with all the steels, and they all sound like shit. And the only one that gets that, just that, you know, that. That howl off the edge of the note. You know, sometimes this falling apart works and sometimes it doesn't. That howl off the edge of the note, really, there's something so important about that cold roll steel, right? And I had made a statement saying, you know, you could buy some better ones than stock fenders for these ferrules back here, and the guy's a very good machinist, but they're made out of stainless. And I tried them and they sound like garbage, right? Because stainless doesn't belong anywhere near a bridge. I said it in that video, right? So it confused some people because they're like, well, wait a minute,
you
then
like the
what about
stainless steel
stainless steel
frets?
frets? You said stainless belongs nowhere. I didn't say on a guitar. I said on a bridge. Now, does that transfer to the fret, that theory? Yeah, it does, all right? But there's only so many choices in life. Nobody makes anything other than the old crap
The nickel
pile of shit
kind.
nickel frets that wear out in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay? Or stainless. It's like a lot of things in life. You go too far or not enough. Nobody
you're gonna
fixes something just right.
Choose the one of the two that you have available.
Right.
And you like the stainless.
So, is there stuff that sounds better than stainless? Yes, and I have my choice on the bridge to choose that.
But
Now,
you don't have a choice on
What
the
are we
fret wire.
comparing the stainless on the neck to? We're comparing it to the crap wire that
Tin can stuff.
if you don't use stainless wire, you're stuck, and that's not even as good as it was in the 50s. There's something that is wrong with that stuff. Now, I don't know. They changed it in like the early 70s. It started to wear out real fast, and I think they just want to sell a lot of fret wire, right? I don't know. But I know one thing. I've fretted hundreds and hundreds of 50s guitars, and I know that's not the same wire, okay? But that's what you get now, and I can't stand it. I'm not going to build a guitar and put frets in that last a year to 2 years. It's
Well, every time
it's
you refret
brutal
the
on
guitar,
to refret the
don't
guitar.
you have to remount the fret slots?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it
It's
makes
not
them big and baggy.
It's not even good for the guitar at all. These last forever. I got a pretty heavy hand. I can't even break the crown off of these in 15 years. On this guitar is about 15 years old. I cannot break the crown off of these frets. Okay, and now so.
Save
For
a lot
years,
of money,
when stainless first came out, I wouldn't use it. I'd go to the guitar store and pick up a guitar with stainless frets and go, oh my God, it sounds terrible, right? Well, they all sound terrible. Why? Because none of these factories put frets in right anymore. Again, I fretted hundreds of 50s guitars, whether they be Fenders or Gibsons. And those frets were in so freaking tight, they were slammed in. The contact, you touch that note and the neck is vibrating. That's not how people build guitars anymore. You can't even buy a saw that size anymore. It's all 23,000 saws. The frets, you can almost push them in with your fingers in a slot that big. Okay? Everyone's afraid to backbow the neck. They don't understand why, when you know, say in the early 80s, if you went to buy a 59 Les Paul and it's been refretted, oh, that takes off, you know, $8,000 off the price. And people seem to think that's like some mystery reason. No, there was a reason for that. Before guitars were worth a lot of money. When a Strat was only $800 for a 54 Strat, and it was refretted, now it was $400 guitar. Why? Because it didn't sound good anymore. Because some bozo hacked it out, opened the slots way up, and the frets are in loose, and that guitar doesn't sound good. That's why the price dropped, because the guitar didn't sound good after it was refretted.
So the fret job was sloppy,
improperly.
was what you're saying.
Right. Well, in luthery, people go to these luthery schools and they keep teaching more and more routing out the slots, easy fret installation, and you got a guitar that just sounds like mush, okay? Now, you put stainless in that way, you got a real problem, because stainless is extremely hard compared to the other fret wire.
So if it's in loose, it's even worse?
It's terrible, and that's what's wrong with stainless wire. When Rick comments and says, I had him put in,
Don't make the dumb
no,
voice.
Rick is my old friend. He'll laugh. I had him put in, and I went down the next day and said, rip these things out. They sound like shit, you know. Well, the guy who put him in probably put him in loose, okay, and didn't understand how to use. It's a totally different way to use.
He didn't ditch the
stainless
tang?
wire. Well, stainless wire works completely different. You can't overbend it. It won't. You can't hammer it into shape. It has to be the exact shape. Okay, it's a totally different type of fretting. You have to really learn how to use it. But and then, one of our other great friends made a comment saying, "Yeah, someone just gave me a guitar. You read that to me, and I told you, oh, that's so and so, you know, and you didn't know because."
Oh, okay.
And he said,
He had a different name on it.
"Plays really nice, but it sounds like shit." You know, yeah. Well, again, you know, But
it's a in
anyone who ever plays this
in
guitar
expert
or any
installation
one of
of
my
the
guitars with stainless wire
fret.
is like, oh my God, the sound and the feel. What kind of frets are these? They'll never guess that they're stainless. Okay, so yeah, what if these were made out of cold rolled steel? Well, first of all, they'd rust with no finish on them if the guitar was left outside.
And even if they had a finish, you'd wear the finish off with the
Right, but so
playing
what?
it.
So they could be made out of chrome moly, and that won't rust, and that would sound better than stainless, and it would last just as long. Okay, it's just that no one makes anything but the junk, the original old junk, which isn't even the same as what it was in the 50s.
Which is degraded from the original quality.
Yeah, the formula's all wrong. I don't care what anybody says. That stuff is not the stuff that they put in the 50s. It's not. And then you have stainless. So you make your choice. Okay. Well, if it sounds bad, you don't use it. Well, learn how to put it in. Okay. If you tell me, and you're a luthier, that shit don't sound good, you don't know how to put it in. Go back to work on it, figure it out. And
Well,
then,
if you put it on
then
a
let me
brand
know.
new neck and it's never been refretted, you could probably get it in a lot tighter, right?
Well, if you got the slots too loose to start with, like most brand new guitars, you're going to have that problem.
Yeah, but
you
if
know?
it's a refret, that's even worse, right?
Well, now you got even more problems on a refret.
Because they got all that nasty old glue in there. You gotta dig that
They're
out.
all
You
opened
gotta
up, and it's been
widen up
fretted
the,
2 or 3 times by some idiot.
every time
know.
you refret the guitar, you're
Yeah.
lessening its life.
Well, I'm
right?
talking. Let's stick with brand new guitars, okay? Most guys cut their slots too big on brand new guitars. That shit's way. I know because you look at the saws they sell; they're too big. All right. I've fretted the old guitars. I know I've mic'd them. I know what the original size slots were, and the fret wire hasn't changed in its actual size.
So they're making a bigger slot and using the same old wire.
Yeah, some people route it out and then epoxy them in.
They put
And those
glue.
really sound like garbage. They started that in the 80s because basically guys can't figure out how to
It's
do
like
a
putting
good fret
insulation in between the.
job. They can't figure out
the wood and the metal.
insulation. These guys use
The glue.
two-piece. These guys use 2-piece truss rods, and they first layer up silicone, like what you use to seal your windows, in a freaking guitar. Okay.
That
And then they
dampens
put
the
this garbage
vibrations,
sounding
doesn't
rod
it?
in there. And then it's because they can't, when they put their fingerboard on, because they can never figure out how to cut a 1-piece neck with a slot in the back, right, with an arch slot. Then they take and then they put a strip of wood over that, a tiny little strip of wood, and they glue that in with epox. And then they glue their fingerboard. By the
Making
time
fun
you're
of
done-
everybody, Bob.
By the time you're done, you
Bob
wonder why
likes to
that
make
neck
fun of
sounds like
people.
garbage. Well, it sounds like garbage because 2-piece truss rods sound like garbage. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. You're entitled to your own opinion, and I'm entitled to mine. And
So
I've
your new
tried them,
guitars are going to
and
have
they're
one
junk.
truss rod, right?
Yeah, my new guitars always have just.
They have your proprietary truss rod.
Yeah, I designed my own truss rod, but it's taken a lot off of a lot from Leo's design. Okay. You have to
That's the truss
bear
rod.
with me. Yeah, I'm not going to show you this end. It's my secret. Okay.